remember they're changing my voice because they're trying to make a nerd, Jewish, white supremacist world, LGBT world, where they try to make it so everyone sounds like a weirdo, and they try to make it so they sound more respectable than everyone else. Lots of people have warned them about it. They refuse to listen to it. The people warning them basically all just roll with it because they don't have the heart to face them, and those people just keep continuing. That's part of why I don't have, that's part of why I have a lot of, resentment in my heart for certain types of people, certain types of whites, Jews, LGBT, and took minorities, we'll say. But as it stands, obviously, everyone is outside the divine order, except for me, and my parents are blimps. Okay, so let's get into the 7 churches, seals, trumpets, angels, plagues, and bowls. Let's put this in a way that you can understand. Okay, this video is very important. So I'm gonna, kind of put these things together. Talk about the church, talk about the seals, talk about the trumpets, and talk about the bowls. So the first church is Ephesus. They have deeds and hard work, but they were forsaken the love they had at first, which is Nimrod, the first mighty hunter and warrior before the Lord. The punishments include the seals, which when it's open, the first seal, there's a rider on a horse with a bow and given a crown and rides out as a rider bent on conquest. The trumpets are blown, hail and fire mixed with blood, 1/3 of the earth is burned up, and 1/3 of the trees and all the green grass. The bowls, the first bowl is on the land, and ugly festering sores. Ugly festering sores. Okay, remember I have power to punish people over all your religions. If I said to the Hindu, you're not allowed to be a Hindu or your eternal punishment is increased, then that is the case. If I say to the Jew, the Christian, the Muslim. So because they're changing my voice, I say to the nerd, the white, the Jew, the LGBT, you're no longer allowed to read scriptures, Torah, Bible, or Quran, or your eternal punishment is increased. That's 100% fair. Even in their racist world, that's my religious right. Okay, going on to, so let's explain the first one again. You see, Ephesus, they have deeds and hard work, and they were forsaken the love they had at first, right? It is, they refer to as Babylon, right? Babylon, forsaken Nimrod, whose major centers were included in Babylon, okay? Were in Babylon, okay? So he was the first mighty hunter and warrior before the Lord. Before Abraham I am, okay? The first and the last, right? The last one who fits the description of a mighty warrior, last one ever possible, last valid martial arts ever possible, last top martial arts ever possible, that's me. Okay, so they forsake Nimrod and everyone like him, including me. Okay, and I'm Christ. The seals, there's a rider on a white horse with a bow and given a crown and rides out as a rider bent on conquest. So the rider is determined to destroy the scum of this earth, all who rebel against me, and he's bent on coming out victorious. All victories are in principle, right? So, we look at, World War II. A lot of Germans could argue they won World War II, if it wasn't based on principle, right? You say, well, how did you win? They say, well, because they're Nazis, and that means they won. No, they lost, and so did everyone else fighting the war, because they're all scum living by worldly secular nations and assorted filth, communism and white supremacist nations, just a bunch of scumbags killing each other, and I'm glad that they died. I'm glad that they killed each other in that war, because these people are evil. Their offspring persecute me. They didn't, they were practicing segregation in their countries at the time. We can go on and on about the reasons. These were bad people that deserved to die. If people are sent to death row for killing one person, how much more people are willing to enter war and cause 60 million deaths for petty fucking government-based reasons? Petty nonsense. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. They're forsaking the love they had at first is connected to the rider on a horse with a bow, right? So they have forsaken Nimrod, who was a warrior, and the guy on the horse, even though an archer on a horse is nowhere near as great as a single combat warrior, obviously, but that is part of the idea, and it's connected. And so it's connected to the trumpets and the hail and fire mixed with blood thrown on the earth, okay? And 1/3 of the earth burned up, and 1/3 of the trees and all the green grass. So the earth was punished, okay? There's a rider on a horse, okay, which is associated with riding on the earth, but that's not that important. Okay, what is important is the earth burning up is connected to the bowls, where the bowl is emptied on the land, where there's ugly festering sores. So the bowl on the land, okay, the trumpet where there's hail and fire mixed with blood thrown on the earth. See how it's a solid connection. Now this is a little confusing because the people in this nation, they're governed by bitches and they don't have the heart to face them. So they're interfering with this video. So I'll put it on the screen and you should be able to connect it from there. If you have any questions, put in the comments. So the second church is Smyrna. Now keep in mind, all churches in the world are despicable. God resents them. God hates them for being dishonest. It says right there in Proverbs, the righteous detest the dishonest. They detest them. They don't just say, hey, that's not fair, guys. They fucking detest them. Okay? And the wicked, by their actions, hate the upright. So they're hating God and I by being dishonest, sniveling churches. So obviously, I'm right to say no one else should be talking about God, no one should be getting married, no one should be dating, having sex, da-da-da. You know why they're not going to listen to me? Because they're flea fucking scum with a pea fucking brain with bad fucking genes. What did you think it was? You think you can breed generations of bitch and magically when the most important time comes to man up that they're prepared? The parable of the 10 virgins. Except for none were prepared because these people are all fucking bitches when you apply it to the actual physical churches and not to the idea of churches in the heavenly realms or something. They're pretty straightforward. And you see how when they interfere when I'm talking about this serious matter, that I'm 100% right to chastise them? Can you imagine all the people moving against me, the families of the people on duty right now cooking like bitches? They don't exactly feel loved by their fucking family members on this planet. I promise you that. I promise you that. I gotta explain this. When I was a little kid, I understood that crystal clear. Why do these people as adults act like bitches? So the second church, Smyrna. There's no complaints, but the world needs to be punished for the afflictions they suffer, which include persecution and imprisonment. They are said to be rich spiritually. The punishment seals. The seals include rider on a fiery red horse, given a large sword, and has power to take peace from the earth. Trumpets are blown, a huge mountain all ablaze thrown into the sea. A third of the sea turns to blood, a third of the living creatures die, and a third of the ships are destroyed. The bowl is there's a sea. The sea turns to blood. So the bowl's poured into the sea, and it turns to blood like blood of a dead person. And all the living creatures in it die. Okay? So you see the connection with the trumpet and the bowl. Now, a lot of people don't, if you don't read it in the Bible, you might miss why I put this together. They separate it in the Bible to confuse you. There's chapters in between. There's all kinds of other stuff. This is part of how they try to do me with the videos, where they try to distract me to make it so my videos, aren't all consistently one after another, so it doesn't seem like I'm staying on topic, but I am. Okay, they're just messing up the uploads. They're interfering, causing me to be frustrated and want to move on to the next subject. They're creating that because they're rape cult scum who deal in confusion. Who among you, if you saw a trial where someone got roofied, would say, hey, that sex is fair and square? How much more when it is a calculated process with tons of people dumb enough to date the way they want them to, leading people astray, psychology, substances are there, alcohol, drugs, covertly drugging things, fumes in the air, you name it. There's a massive operation to mislead people in terms of sex. And who do you believe? A bunch of racists in the government who said stay away from the white girls, who think they just calmed down by themselves? One day they said, oh, we don't mind anymore. Or you think they stepped it way up in terms of drugging and psychology and technology? Okay? Beyond what we would think of at first. You might say, well, they control dating sites. Just shut the fuck up. You fucking cowards. That's part of why the gay spirit isn't the spirit of God. Because instead of manning up, they'll say, well, I kind of know how you feel. That's some bullshit. This is not a I kind of know how you feels moment. If you have any speck of masculinity, you'll rally to obey God through me. Okay? And stop harassing me like a bunch of sissy, child-raping scum. Like, I gotta explain this. You say, well, that's inflammatory. Great, lovely. You tell the Son of God he's inflammatory. That's the pinnacle of homosexual intelligence. That's what you want people to know. That's the pinnacle of it. That's your scholars, your academics, who the state trusts with this operation. Use your fucking heads. So again, if you get confused, look at the screen and connect the first church to the first seal to the first trumpet to the first bowl. And so on and so forth with the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. Okay? And if you have any questions about things I say, put in the comments. Okay? right? Church number 3, Pergamum. Some were faithful. Satan has his throne. Some of them hold to the teachings of Balaam, who taught Balak to entice the Israelites to sin and eat food sacrificed to idols and commit sexual immorality. If they do not repent, then he says he will fight against them with the sword of his mouth, actions, and spirit. Of course, he is me. Okay. The punishments, the seals. The black horse, okay, from the seal. Black horse comes forth. He has the scales. They hear a voice saying 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wages, and do not damage the oil and the wine. And there's various interpretations from this. Some are very perverse and sick and perverted. Okay. There's trumpets, wormwood, a star called wormwood, which means bitterness. It's a great star blazing like a torch, falls on 1/3 of the rivers and springs of water, and 1/3 of the waters turn bitter, and many people die. With the bowls are poured out. You know, the bowl, the third bowl, is poured out on the rivers and springs of water, and they turn to blood. Okay, so you see here where with the trumpet, wormwood, okay, falls into the rivers and springs, and 1/3 of the waters turn bitter, and many people die. Okay, and when the bowl is poured out, okay, in a different chapter, the rivers and springs of water turn to blood. Okay, so these things are connected, and how they're connected, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. This is part why I don't like the Bible. How many of you think that they should have made the jigsaw puzzle where the oppressor, who was more often literate than the oppressed, okay, to say the least, okay, had all the time in the world to put this together, while the average oppressed person didn't? It was very sick of them, very privileged, very spoiled, very cult-like trash, very, telling people to bend over if they want to learn the how it is, okay, to bend over and get laced properly. Just sick, horrible, racist, whites, Semites, and LGBT people, horrible people. And whatever token minorities they had there, horrible people. Again, I don't care what color someone's skin is. I'm a moral supremacist and not a racial supremacist. The fourth church, Thyatira. Some persevered, but they tolerated Jezebel, who leads people into eating food sacrificed to idols and sexual immorality. When given time, she did not repent, so she will be cast on a bed of suffering. Strong pillars with her and the prostitute on the beast, at least. The punishments. Okay, the seals, the pale horse, the rider is death, and Hades falls close behind him. They are given power of 1/4 of the earth to kill by the sword, famine, and plague, and the wild beasts of the earth. The trumpets. Okay, so when the 4th trumpet is blown, 1/3 of the sun and moon are struck, and stars are struck. 1/3 of them are dark, and 1/3 of the day and night are without light. The bowl is poured on the sun, and it scorches people with fire. So we see this definitive pattern here. So some people say, I don't understand Revelations, because it's pieces of puzzle from the Bible all over. It's the same thing with Jesus come back on a cloud, the woman robed in the cloud, okay, God standing on a cloud, okay, his chariots, okay, are like the wind, and so on and so forth, right? There's these parallels again and again, there's these connections again and again, and there's this figurative speech again and again, metaphors and so on and so forth, and they use overlapping examples that connect together, okay, the cloud, the sun, okay, the bowls, right? What are these things, right? The bowl and the blow, right? It's blow scrambled, okay, it's connected. There's a long reason. So they have the word play, and it just goes on and on and on and on. And you find that when you do all the labyrinth work, all the jigsaw puzzle, it's just a bunch of perverted, sick, racist Jews, whites, LGBT people, token minorities, okay, and they just want to abuse you and say, ha, 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 that's all that is, and act like a bitch while they control you, especially sexually and financially. And it is so fucking sick, okay? If you don't hate them for it, okay, I'll let you finish that statement.